We've been struggling to understand the reason for anti-Semitism. I don't think that there's anybody more eloquent than the former Chief Rabbi of England, of the United Kingdom, Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, as he explains what anti-Semitism is and how it operates. Take a listen.
Not always, not inevitably, and every substitute for religion leads to war. So the cause of war is not religion, it's us. It's human beings. It's that nasty little thing called human impulse and anger. So religion doesn't lead to violence, but it can very much intensify it or provide a justification
it's a vehicle
for it. And I think no one expected this in the 21st century.
It's very interesting you're arguing, making this point now, because of course a lot of people are saying the era in which we're living is one in which there is a clamour or a need for people to find identity.
Yeah.
Identity politics, nationalist politics is very prominent. People feeling like their voice needs to be heard, they need to shout more loudly because their tribe is not getting the recognition it needs. I wonder whether you think that is a problem.
I think it is. You know, we've lost our national identity.
Do you think so?
I think we really, really have, yes. And we kind of lost that in that welter of multiculturalism, and we said, you know, actually it's very impolite to have a national identity.
But this gets to the heart of a very awkward dilemma, doesn't it, about whether we all should have a shared identity or whether we should encourage people to have their own identity in a multicultural England or a multicultural Britain.
The real difference is this: if there's a collective identity, society is a home. If you have multiculturalism, society is a hotel. It was supposed to lead to greater tolerance. What it led to was what Trevor Phillips called sleepwalking into segregation. Multiculturalism did not promote tolerance or shared identity. It said, you go off and do your own thing. And that turns out to be very destructive.
Well, that brings us to a very timely topic, of course, which is anti-Semitism. And many of the British Jewish community have said they have noticed a step change in the level of hostility. Have you noticed that, and does that worry you?
Well, I noticed it because our youngest daughter actually encountered this when she was at university. And I found this deeply shocking because I had not experienced a single episode of anti-Semitism in my life, and I'm not exactly low profile. You know, chief rabbis are fairly known to be Jewish for the most part. But it is there, actually. And of course, it's always in a new form because anti-Semitism is so socially unacceptable that it can only survive the way a virus survives, which is by mutating. In the Middle Ages, Jews were hated for their religion. In the 19th and 20th centuries, you weren't allowed to hate anyone for their religion, because this is post-Enlightenment Europe. So they were hated for their race. Today, you can't hate anyone for their race, so you hate them for their nation state. And that is why anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism.
But this gets to the heart of a difficulty that some people are feeling about this whole chat about anti-Semitism, because there are some people who feel incredibly strongly about the state of Israel and things they don't like about it, particularly settlements and things. And they feel that the charge of anti-Semitism is effectively being used to kind of put a sort of moral question over their hostility to Israel.
A group of school kids asked me just that question a week ago. And I said, tell me, hands up, which of you believes it's legitimate to criticize the British government? They all put their hands up. I said, which of you believes that Britain has no right to exist? Nobody put their hands up. I said, now you know the difference between criticism of the state of Israel and anti-Semitism.
How surprised have you been about the traumas the Labour Party has been through with Ken Livingstone and the charges of anti-Semitism? How serious do you think a problem the party has?
I think the problem is so simple. Just practice zero tolerance the way you would to any other kind of unacceptable prejudice. So just do it and the problem is solved.
Lord Sacks, Jonathan Sacks, thank you very much.
Thank you.
wouldn't it be amazing to live in a world free from anti-Semitism? If we could only impress upon our non-Jewish brothers and sisters how we are all children of the living God, how we are all created in the image of God, and every single one of us are worthy. You don't need to be Jewish in order to be special. You don't need to be Jewish in order to be holy or to have a wholesome relationship with God Almighty. The way that you are already is good because God doesn't make mistakes. And if we could only look at each other with that approach, recognizing and emphasizing not the differences between us, but what lies, not the differences that are superficial, but what lies at the essence of each and every one of us, because every single human being has a soul, which is a piece of God Almighty. We are able to access that soul and reorient our identity to actually identify not with our superficial differences, but rather with our essential unions. When we realize how every single person is created in the image of God, it's very, very difficult to hate someone else because you realize that I am a piece of God and he and she are a piece of God as well. And therefore, for me to hate them is for me to hate myself. Perhaps this is the true meaning of multiculturalism. Perhaps the ultimate intention, which was so corrupted, as Jonathan Sacks so beautifully explained. Perhaps the ultimate intention was that each and every one of us should be able to truly learn how to live together. But that required not just putting everybody into the same room and expecting us to get along with each other, but rather to change how we see things, to change how we see ourselves. This, my friends, is the world of Mashiach. It's a world of redemption, a world of redemptive consciousness and redemptive vision, where we don't get distressed by noticing what other people have because we draw so much strength from who we are ourselves. Can you imagine what kind of a world that would be?